worm tea. So I use it on my seedlings, basically.
Nice.
So it's good stuff. It stinks when it comes
Worm
out.
juice.
Yeah, because obviously when the worm's going through the stuff.
I suppose it's like compost juice kind of thing.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah. But it's really good.
Mm.
Really good stuff.
So I think we should probably start by talking about this space, because I think it wins the coolest space that I've filmed in so far for the podcast.
Well,
that's
not a lot,
be the
really.
Biggest, but
Considering how many episodes you've done, that's not really an achievement, but I will put it in my bio.
that's your next claim.
Yeah. I'll take that.
But talk me through this space, because there is stuff everywhere, like loads of cool little things and stuff. Like, I'm obsessed. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty full, isn't it? So I wrote a book. We'll come to that later on, right? But I wrote a book about how to get children gardening. And whenever I went on stage, I used to have people and children come up to me and said, I've not really got much space. Got like a little balcony, a little small courtyard sometimes. And this book's probably not going to be any good for me because it was photographed in quite a long garden, right? And so I sat down and I thought, one thing that's missing from like media as a whole at the time, it's getting a bit better, but is small spaces and showing that any space can be a garden. And for me, especially like a family garden. So I decided that I would try and fit all of my ideas from my book into a fence panel by a fence panel big garden and see what we could do with it and grow my own food as well at the same time. And this is what we've come up with. So we've got ideas from growing in boxes. We've got a little pond in here. We've got bug hotels. We've got a little growing area as well. My daughter did come here the other day and she did say, Dad, remember, this is a family area. And I was sitting here. I was like, what are you talking about? It's great. And she was stood literally right here. And I was like, where am I sitting? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a problem, right? So over the winter, we're going to build up more of an area so the rest of my family... It's great for me at the moment, not great for the rest of the family. So, we'll get 3 people in here somehow. There's 2 of us in here. That's
exactly.
A good start, right?
This is working, yeah. And it's a great little cosy space just for you, to be fair.
It's really nice. Like, when it's peaceful down here, like, actually, I'm really surprised today it's peaceful because usually we're, like, right at the end of the gardens. Hot day.
Well, earlier there was kids out and everything.
Next door, everyone's got a swimming pool along. Well, not a swimming pool, more of a massive paddling pool. You know how like over the years paddling pools have got bigger.
Yeah.
Like,
they're not paddling pools anymore. They're basically swimming pools.
Yeah, back in our day, right, a paddling pool was like about
a bucket of water.
Yeah, 6 buckets of water in like a rubber thing. Now you're getting like you're putting the hose on the night before to fill it.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? But anyway. What
you can't fit one of those in here.
You can't fit. But one of the I would love to. At one point, I was going to make. This is really tangent all over the place. But at one point, and I still want to do it. Make a hot tub in here out of a wheelie bin.
Ooh,
Somehow, I want to try and fit a wheelie bin into this space and turn it into obviously a one-person hot tub.
Yeah.
But
Don't tell Adam, Green-Fingered City Boy, king of the wheelie bins.
He'll love
be stealing that
He'll
idea.
definitely make...
Copyright.
Yeah, he'll get like millions of views now off making one outside of his house, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite niche, actually. I don't think there's any wheelie bin gardeners.
He's calling himself the Binfluencer.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah, and he's going to come on a future episode. We're going to record in the next few weeks, so I'll be talking to him all about that.
Mention the wheelie bin hot tub, see if he'll do it.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, he can just do it here and install it for me.
Yeah, I want it, obviously. I'll have it.
Yeah.
But he can make it for me.
do the hard work.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's just the space we've got, yeah.
How did you get into gardening, first of all, and how did you get then into children's gardening specifically, and what made you want to do that?
Yeah, so I got into gardening 10 years ago, and I left my family home with my mum and dad, moved in with my now wife, and me and my brother were really close. He's about a year younger than me, and we missed each other. Like, we just really missed like seeing each other. And we tried to be in a band called Don't Forget the E, mainly because my name's Connelly. Everyone usually spells it with an O. Don't Forget the E. Yeah. Amazing band name. Terrible at playing instruments. Like, I can sort of sing, Like really, like sort of. Other than that, we can't play instruments, so that didn't happen. We tried to start a crazy golf team and get sponsored by Red Bull. They didn't want to know, but I thought it was a brilliant idea at the time.
Yeah.
Before its time, probably. That will definitely happen soon.
Yeah, bring that one back again.
And then he got an allotment, and it was given a little part of an allotment, and he called me and said, "Would you like to come down and help me out?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be wicked. Like, I'll come down." And it started from there, really, and my whole excitement. I never did growing at home. Before that, me and my dad, me and my brother, and my dad and my mum. It was very much a garden which you could look at, but don't touch. Even now, if we go and play football around it, you're not allowed, right? Mm-hmm. And so we never did any garden before. So I was 24, 25, and I had no idea where potatoes, for instance, came from.
Yeah.
I always tell us this story, and everyone always giggles about it, but I honestly thought like potatoes grew on like little potato trees or something. I had no idea. It was like ridiculous. And so we got this allotment, and we started growing our own on there. A lot of weeding to begin with, obviously. So everyone that's got an allotment will know that. And while we were doing it, it was like really early, I think, really early like social media times, right?
Yeah.
Probably wasn't, but for us and gardening, it felt really early. And we started putting ideas up and asking questions. And this is how we started to learn how to grow our own food. And Jimmy Doherty, up the road from us in Suffolk, he's Jamie Oliver's mate. We don't like being called Jamie Oliver's mate. He's more than that. He's so
he's
much
his
more.
Own person.
But he is, right? And he's got a farm. And he said, I really like what you're doing. Will you come up to the farm and do a little area on the farm? And we went, yeah, cool. Like, Jimmy's asking us to do something. This is so exciting. And so we went there, and it was a massive cow paddock that had just got overgrown. They had it as an allotment. They wanted us to do something with it. And we were all like new and bushy-tailed and like, yeah, we'll do it. Don't worry, Jim. And we volunteered there for about 3 years, building this allotment up. It was the best experience of like learning how to start growing our own, because visitors would come down, expect us to be experts. We ain't got a clue what we were talking about. And they they cottoned on to this, and then we actually learnt from them. And that was the best experience of learning from them. Started working with Jamie, and then doing bits around his food education.
Okay.
And then ended up on Blue Peter. And I don't know how that even happened, if I'm honest with you. But it was wicked. I loved it. It was really cool.
How did it happen?
How did it happen? Well, we did this stuff with Jamie.
Yeah.
And basically, from doing bits with Jamie, we then I don't actually know the real story of how it actually happened. Someone emailed and said, would the boys like to come and do something? And I was like,
someone must have just seen you doing it.
Yeah. And we were just like, yeah, okay, we'll come and do it. We'd only been gardening for like, at this point when we went on Blue Peter, about a year. A lot of it had been weeding, right?
Weeding experts.
So I don't really, we didn't have really a clue still what we were doing. But next thing we know, we were like Blue Peter gardeners. So if anyone wants to get on TV, that's the
it's easy.
that's the world of it, right?
Do a bit of weeding. I suppose that's good though. I suppose it's good in a way that you didn't know that much though, because you were learning with everyone and kind of talking openly about that.
Yeah, looking back, well, you say that, right? So looking back on it now, like I feel like I'm much more open about what I do in gardening. Back then, when we first started, we were thrown onto TV, and then we were doing bits on stage and all this sort of stuff. And you're like experts, and you're like from Blue Peter and all this sort of stuff. And I felt a real pressure to like perform, and like if someone asked me a question
to know the answer,
I was like, oh god, I need to. And like now, I'm like, how I don't like someone asked me about roses. I don't really know much about roses, mate. But is there anyone else here that can tell us? Like, I feel more free now to do that. At the time, I didn't, and that a massive anxiety around when I used to do that sort of stuff, because I just wasn't confident enough in my craft, and but such an amazing experience at the same time. I always tell people, if you want to start an allotment, become a TV allotmenteer. Because if you start an allotment, you spend about a year weeding, right? Start a TV allotment, Literally, you rock up out of your Premier Inn. There's a 20-man team clearing the allotment for you.
They've done all the weeding.
They've done the hole for you. You literally have to hold the plant and just smile. Do you know what I mean? It's so simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I loved it. I loved it. I love that whole world of TV. But that's how I got into children's TV and children's gardening. And I didn't even have my daughter then. But it was such a good experience. You know, one thing that I learned when I had Olive, who's my daughter, she's 8 years old now, was that when we were on Blue Peter, I think I was there for about 3 to 4 years doing Blue Peter. And some of that was with Olive, so I sort of learnt when I had her. But when I wasn't a father, when I wasn't an actual parent, I was throwing out these ideas, right, that looked like, for instance, one of the garden makes, which was really great, was a wormery made out of Chester drawers.
Okay.
Looks amazing, right? I don't know if you've ever tried to do that with a 2-year-old. It's impossible, right? I always say, like, I've thrown out Pinterest ideas, which look amazing, but actually physically doing it with kids is another...
Yeah, because that's a different thing, isn't it?
Whole nother world. But that's how I got into kids' garden. And then when my daughter come along, that really changed it for me, because I felt that there was that heart there behind it.
Yeah.
So it was a complete accident, but a beautiful accident of how I got into children's gardening and that sort of thing.
And then over the years, you've become really passionate about that space, haven't you? And, you know, really talked about it and really got behind that a bit more.
Yeah, I think, over the years, it's just, you know, when you get into something, you don't really know where you're going to go with it. And, over the years, it's been a bit of a journey. Like, I remember when I went to, this is nuts, right, Tom, but I went to Japan.
Yeah.
And designed a show garden.
Did you?
Now, that seems wild to me, and it wasn't a family show garden either, but I had no idea where my career was going at that point.
Yeah.
I was in Japan, I had no idea what I was doing. It was wicked, but it wasn't until I had Olive, really, that actually I knew that a children's garden was the way I wanted to go. It's you're given all these options, aren't you? And then you sort of take them all, and then you sort of find your path.
Yeah, that's it. You just kind of find your path as you go, and kind of like you say, you wing it to a degree, and you're kind of just going with the flow, taking every opportunity until you find your niche and your space.
Oh yeah, completely, yeah.
So now you've really kind of got into the children's gardening then, and where's it gone from there since then?
So I did Blue Peter for a bit, and that was amazing. And I mean, you've been to gardening shows, right? And now actually there's some really good people doing talks that are very energetic and different. When I first started, they're a bit boring. A bit boring, right?
Yep.
And I wanted to bring something different to children and to make it exciting. And I went down this whole like entertainment route because of BBC and stuff, and like that sort of like aimed me towards the entertainment side. And I like to try and educate children in a different way than just standing up there behind a slideshow.
Just standing up talking to them is not going to be engaging young children in particular, is it?
Not really. I've tried it and it doesn't work. So I've always, whenever I do like talks and stuff, it's always like I used to have a gold jacket. I was quite famous for wearing a gold jacket all the time. When I say famous, I mean a few of my friends knew me for wearing a gold jacket. But like it's always been around that side of things. But yeah, I think, like I said, it's that whole having a child and realising what they actually need to go out there and learn. Because I didn't have that, right, when I was a child. I sort of feel what I'm missing out on. And now with Olive, to like create memories together, I always say, God, I love growing your own. I think it's great. I love looking after wildlife. But the biggest thing that I try and promote to families is the memory side, because it's what children really remember. And like technology is amazing. Like obviously, we both agree. We wouldn't be meeting without technology, right?
Yeah.
But it don't half take away. Like like we were talking about earlier on before we came on, it don't have to take away from the experience of having that screen between people. And when you're outside with kids and away from that, like literally leave the phone up in the house, get it out of the way, and actually spend just an hour outside, you create real memories, like stuff that Olive remembers when she was like 4 years old, of us being outside together, because I gave her that time, is amazing. I can't believe she remember. I can't even remember it sometimes. And she's like, oh, I really remember that time when we did this, or when we were growing pumpkins, and that's what I want to try and spread around families and parents. Do you know what I mean? That's so important, because at the end of the day, that's what our children are going to remember, and that's what we're going to be remembered for, right? We're not going to be remembered for that Instagram post with 1,000 likes or whatever on, or how many listens you get on a podcast. It's not about that. It's about what you're actually physically there for.
Yeah, exactly. Inspiring more people to get into it and give it a go. And I remember one of the earliest memories that I have of my grandparents is my granddad showing me around his greenhouse, and he actually was pretty cool. He used to give me tomatoes, and I'd love them, warm out of the greenhouse, and then he'd give me a chili that he'd been growing. But like, I remember though the experience of that and how much I loved it. But like, it was just such a nice experience now looking back at it. That started getting me into gardening from a really young age, and really made me inquisitive and interested, and certainly learnt the difference between tomatoes and chilies pretty quickly. But you know what I mean? Like, that's a memory from, I would be really young.
We're going to get you some therapy for that, mate. I think
that
is... I really liked your granddad until you just told me that story. But yeah, you're something you remember, right? And that's really special. You'll always remember that time that happened. So
exactly.
I suppose that works. I might try that on Olive, actually.
Yeah, exactly. She'll definitely remember it for the rest of her life. No, my granddad's always been like a bit of a joker, a bit of a, massive laugh. But those memories of just going out in the greenhouse and doing stuff, and I'd just be pottering. I'd probably be making things a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah.
But just digging up stuff and that. But I remember it, and that's one of the first things that I really got me into gardening and stuff. So I think it definitely is. It's those memories, isn't it, that you're making, that you could be inspiring the next generation of gardeners, or someone who's going to grow up wanting to do that.
Yeah, that's really important as well, like, because we've got a really weird, maybe from our parents and that, but do you remember, like, this is going to be a really tangent podcast again, but do you remember a time, right, because we're around the sort of same age, do you remember a time when it used to be acceptable to go down the road and just throw like your McDonald's wrappers out the window? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's wild, right? Like, and I don't know why I just thought of that, but that's why it's so important now that we're teaching a generation, one, not to do that, but two, that we really need to look after our planet. And by teaching children that now, we're going to have a generation that's really going to care. Like, we're quite a good generation as it is.
But the next generation are even more tuned into all of that sort of thing,
exactly.
And really thinking about the future of the planet and everything around them, and how they can be more self-sufficient and sustainable. And as well, I was just literally thinking about, after all the things that we get taught in school that we always say that you never use, all that algebra and everything else that you never really use, gardening and growing stuff is a practical skill that should be one of the fundamentals that we teach people, because then they can go off and they can grow their own, they can be self-sufficient, they can grow their own food, they can grow amazing flowers. It's something that everyone can actually use. The amount of people that come up to me when I am talking at shows and stuff that say, oh, I just kill everything, and that sort of thing. Like, we should be teaching people from a young age to grow stuff and to just give it a go, and and give them little tips and tricks and stuff and really get them into it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? So, like I said, when I first started this back in, I can't remember what year, but when I was like 24, 25, no idea where I was going. And then this is my 10th year of doing what I do. And now, like, I've found that thing that I want to push. You talk about, like, education and teaching children and stuff. Like the biggest thing that this year for me, like I've done loads this year, but it's been a great year. But the biggest thing was going to House of Parliament.
Oh yeah,
And
I
speaking
saw
of
that. I was
House
going
of
to
Lords,
ask you
right?
about that.
Yeah, and like school gardening for me has to be the best thing for children to do. Like we talk about this space right at the start, and there's children out there that don't even have a small space like this. And I visit so many different schools, and it really upsets me sometimes because I'm like, you've got these children that don't feel like they can be part of gardening because they watch this stuff on TV that don't represent them, right? And it's really sad. It's really upsetting because they come to me as like, oh yeah, I would garden, but I don't have a garden, so we just don't. And so I feel like schools have a big responsibility to be able to provide that space for starters, for children that don't have a garden or don't have that time outside, and also for children to know where their food comes from as well is so important. If we teach children where their food actually comes from, they will have a new generation of really healthy people who
they
don't
can make informed decisions.
Yeah, who don't go down the road chucking McDonald's wrappers out the side after eating a Big Mac, right?
Yeah.
We want children and a generation that really care about their health. And I think growing your own food and knowing where that comes from is super important towards that. Wildlife, like I always talk about, to be honest with you, children are all over that already. Like for me, I'm always into primary education, so that really early start to their gardening life. And they're really on it. Like, for instance, we did school gardens recently for a Culture to Garden Festival. And we did recycling and wildlife as the theme. And they loved it. Last year we did the Queen's Jubilee.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was the coronation. I'm not sure. I think it was the coronation.
Something royal.
Yeah, something royal. This year, wildlife and recycling was probably the best theme we could do because they really went for it. And the ideas they come up with was incredible. So they're all over that. But providing that space in like an educational way, it's like the epicenter of their garden adventure. You have these children that can't garden. Some schools are amazing at it, but some schools still need a bit of work. But these children that can't garden, and these children that don't garden as well. Like we've got a generation at the moment of parents that don't teach children gardening or go outside. So the school has a big responsibility for that. So if you've got children coming in to school growing their own food, then they're going to take that home with them. They're going to get their parents involved, hopefully build some connections there as well. But for me, going into Parliament and trying to make that like part of the education system.
Yeah, because is it so? You'll know more than me now, looking into all this. Is it part of the curriculum that they have to do in any way?
It's not at the it used a long time ago, right? Before our days, it used to be, right? It used to be in the curriculum. Somehow it got lost, didn't happen, and now we're working to bring it back into it. It's a really hard. It's not a simple job as just saying, right, let's chuck gardening in.
Yeah, because something's probably going to have to come out.
Something's going to have to come out. Money has to come from somewhere to do it, and also we're relying on teachers to know how to garden, and that's just not the case. Not their fault.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. So a lot of work needs to happen around it. It's also one of those things like we're in the garden industry, and we believe that gardening should be part of the curriculum. A lot of teachers do. There's a lot of head teachers that think so as well. But there's a lot of other industries that think they should be in part of the curriculum as well, right? So there's a lot of competition. I mean, I don't think there's many that have the benefits that we have of just actually learning outside is a massive thing. But like I say, like I was saying the other day to someone, I was like, I've spent 10 years just building a career doing what I do, and now I want to spend the next 10 years actually making that part of the curriculum and just really focusing on that, because we talk about legacy and stuff like that. That's what I want my legacy to be. I don't want people to remember. Well, I will do, but I don't want people to remember me for like a gold jacket or dressing as a spaceman on stage. I really don't want people to remember that. But I want to come away from this industry actually making a difference in schools and have children learning all that sort of stuff to really change the world, really. I suppose that's what we all want to do, isn't it? Change the world in our own little way.
Yeah, exactly, and that will be a massive change, though, and a massive difference to all of that generation.
Yeah.
And hopefully generations to come in that case, because it gets passed down, as we've talked about, through the memories and through the experiences. Even if it is just for a short time, that generation will be impacted, and the ones that follow on. So
yeah, that's the thing. I think also one of the things, Tom, is that in our industry we always talk about it's getting loads better, because we've got so more young people coming through. But we always talk about getting young people into the industry, like working in the industry. Like, we need more young people into it, but we don't do anything to actually. Don't really do much towards that. Like, you're not going to get, you might in some cases, which is brilliant, but you're not going to get a 17-year-old come out of school and go, do you know what? Gardening looks wicked. I'm going to go be a gardener.
yeah, you're exactly right, actually, because even if you think about most of us who, are we allowed to call ourselves the younger generation of gardeners now?
Yeah, let's take it. We'll take it for now.
We'll own it. Most of us didn't come out, like you say, we didn't come out of school and go, I'm going to do gardening. We had a different job first.
Yeah, we're career changes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually heard that on the radio, I think, somewhere. Oh no, I think it was on a podcast, actually. I was listening to on the way. Yeah. But it was on Tales from the Potting Bench with Adam, and which is another great podcast to listen to.
That's all right.
You don't just have to listen to this one, although make that number one. But Arthur Parkinson was talking about it, actually, and saying that most of the gardeners now are career changers, and that's how a lot of people get into gardening. They don't, like you say, they don't come out of school and think, I want to be a gardener, and I want to do that, and that's a real shame.
But you know why that is? It's because we're not putting the legwork in beforehand. We're just saying, coming out of school, we put at a careers convention, we put a little roller banner up saying, come and be a landscaper, or come and do any part of gardening industry. There's so many different places we can go into for it. And we expect people to sign up on the dotted line and go, yeah, cool, I'll do that. We're not doing any work beforehand. And this is why secondary school stuff is harder to get into. I don't really concentrate on it massively. I'm always primary school. But if we put that education and that seed, let's say literally a seed of gardening thoughts into children at that point, then when they're coming through secondary school, they've got that thought of gardening. They are gardening at home with their parents, or they're doing a little bit in secondary school as well. And then there's a little bit behind it, right?
You can see what the opportunities might be to be a landscaper, or exactly.
I never knew it was even a career.
No.
Like, no one ever told me like you could go into this as a.
Well, I was about to say that my eyes have been opened, even just I decided to do it and to get into this industry, and I was really lucky that I managed to get into it, kind of by accident. But now I'm really doing it. There's opportunity everywhere. There's so much cool stuff happening in the horticulture industry, and so much opportunity, especially for young people, to really make a difference and shake things up, and really bring it to the next generation. And I think that's where actually sometimes I do think that there is a gap. There is, in gardening generally, it tends to be quite old school, and a lot of the gardeners and stuff are up because, like we say, people have career changed into it, and they are the older generation, but the younger generation could make a huge impact and keep passing it on. So I think definitely if we can get more young people into it, then that's just going to keep that going and become a self-sufficient sort of thing.
We need to look forward. That's what I'm saying, though. We need to look forwards in the future. Like, it's just not something you can just jump straight into. You like cutting. I talk about story all the time. You can't cut straight halfway through a story and be a gardener. You have to do that, them first few chapters beforehand. I'm going to use that again, that analogy. That's really good. But
write that down.
Yeah. But you have to do them first few chapters to start off with, because you can't, that's the thing, right? But and also primary school children they really get excited about it. Let's be honest, when you're in school, anything not to do, like maths, and I like my daughter.
If you could have told me I could have not done maths and gone and done gardening when I was that age, I'd have been out there.
Yeah, but the incredible thing is though, you can do maths while being outside. Like there's so many different subjects you can fit into gardening, horticulture, which we're just not tapping into at the moment, and that's the biggest thing for me. Is one at the moment I run a separate thing where I show teachers how they can tap into that education side and teach the children. But I think through real support and curriculum based learning we can do it. Schools are so underfunded though at the moment. It's just I'm a governor of my daughter's school, and it's just horrible to see what they have to actually do.
The decisions they have to make.
It's crazy,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to rock into that parliament and go, hey, let's get this show on the road. There's so many other stuff going on around it. It's such a long road. That's why I said to my wife, I was like, 10 years time, I reckon we'll have a good pop at it. It's a long road to get to before you can even think about taking like baby steps first. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's amazing. It's good to be part of. It's nice to be part of.
And there's definitely a space as well, I think, for just in general things like the shows and stuff to be a bit more family friendly. And that's not to say that they're not family friendly, because they are, and you see a lot of families there. But they're not encouraging families and young people in particular. Yes, they're family friendly and that there's stuff to do and loads to see and ice cream vans and that sort of thing, but there's not so much, you're looking at show gardeners that cost millions of pounds and stuff at a lot of them.
Yeah.
You don't often see stuff that is aimed towards children and a children's garden and stuff that's going to inspire them to want to go there and, have a great time.
It's really hard, isn't it? It's like, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine, to be honest with you, because for children, sometimes garden shows can be a bit boring, right? You're sort of dragged around to look at these gardens.
Even for adults. So in the last episode, actually, that I've recorded with Andy, you won't have heard that because it's not gone out yet. We actually do talk about the fact that even for adults, some of the gardening programs and stuff that we see are often almost a bit unobtainable. They're massive, gigantic gardens. They can be quite boring. They're not like most of us who have met through the gardening community and, on social media and stuff. They don't necessarily appeal to us. They're not that real.
Yeah.
These are the real gardens. And they could be big or small and on a grand scale or a small scale, but they have feelings and emotions attached to memories and the people behind them and stuff. But don't think there's been a gardening show that's really cracked that yet. So you're right, and especially then for the younger generation who see that, they're going to be like, oh God, not Gardener's World again.
I had Titch March. Well, when I used to, I do a podcast, but when I really used to interview people, I had Titch March up about this, right? Because I literally had an interview with him, and the day before I watched one of his programs, and they had like a fence panel for like 500 quid, and I was like, who's going to go and buy a fence panel? And I said to him about this, I said, do you think it's just, like, who's it inspiring? Like, what's it doing? He had a really good answer for it, because obviously in that Love Your Garden program, they help people that really need help. I didn't think about that. He really got me there by the emotions. But but now I feel like I'm going to take complete, what's it called when you take ownership of it? Yeah. Now they've changed that program a bit where they do more makes and stuff, right? I'm saying that's my idea.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my cut.
You inspired
Yeah,
that.
I inspired that, yeah. But I'll take that.
I think they have started to realise that they can't be so extravagant.
Yeah.
And I think TV used to be especially a lot more about that.
Yeah.
Spending money on stuff. Whereas now I think it has got to be a bit more realistic and affordable, but still, a lot of them are still, you couldn't do all of that stuff at once and spend all of that money. And
No, one gardener I really like is Danny Clark. Have you seen him before? I really like Danny because when he did Instant Gardener, you did the big reveal at the end, and you look at it and you go,
has anything changed?
Okay, but because what he actually put in there was had room to grow.
Yeah.
It wasn't planted up a bit of a. You might have heard this before, but you know these like garden programs. Don't tell anyone this, right? But when they plant up a garden, they then take like 50% of the plants after the reveal.
Yeah, because they're not sustainable to grow like that.
Of course
They'd
not.
all outcompete each other, and it'd be wild.
But to anyone not normal, and to anyone who's not in the gardening world, they're like, flipping, I'm gonna have to go down the garden centre. I'm gonna have to spend about £1,000 to pack out this bed. Because it doesn't give an that's why I loved Instant Gardener when Danny did it, because you looked at it and you went, oh, he has changed a few bits. It might look good when it grows. Bit patchy, yeah. Because they didn't pack the beds out. He planted it as if everything would grow.
That stuff's going to grow out.
The worst thing they did on that programme was never to come back in a year's time and see how it's growing.
Yeah.
But as a show, I think that was brilliant for that.
I think there is a bit of general gap in the market for that in terms of gardening and explaining that to people anyway, because I work with some brands that do dahlias and stuff like that, and the amount of people that will buy dahlias and be like, yep, great, I've done a whole border full of dahlias, and they're like, whoa, didn't expect them to get like trees, but they're overflowing, they're all packed, they're all out competing each other, and you go, they can get to like a meter or even more, whereas they grow bigger and bigger over years. Like, they're going to need a bit more space and stuff, so don't plant them too close together and stuff like that. But I don't think we ever really explained that very well.
I think also is one of those things is when you're in this world, you sort of talk. We all talk to each other. Like we do chuck out our education and our ideas and stuff on socials and wherever we want to promote them sort of things. But sometimes we forget. Even I do it sometimes. Like down there, washing up bowl allotment, right? I'll talk about it. I'll be like, yeah, washing up bowl, really simple. Anyone can grow it. All you have to do is put your peat-free soil in there, plant up with a tomato, pepper, a little bit of salad, done. And then someone will go, what about drainage holes? I was like, oh yeah, obviously drainage holes. Of course you've got to put drainage, right? And you forget, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard one sometimes. It's communication, isn't it, at the end of the day. It's a hard one.
It is, because often it is the simplest things that people are like, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, I think we do have to remember when we're getting people into gardening, especially speaking about young people into gardening, to start with the simple tips, because that's the stuff that if you don't learn that, at that age, you grow up and you don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you think that potatoes grow on trees.
Wow, you don't want to do that, do you? I can only use the excuse that I'm from Essex so many times. It's like one of the things we've recently... So we spent money on filming these lessons for schools a couple of years ago, and we filmed 30 lessons throughout the entire year, right? Because we wanted them to grow from September all the way through to July. And we had 30 lessons, and they did 3 lessons every single month, and we put it out there, and we provide them with all these schools with this lesson pack, and we've just had to refilm it all, because one of the things we didn't think about was, and we talked about it earlier, is like schools have more than just gardening on their minds, right? And like 30 lessons, three a month is a lot.
Yeah.
And so now we've literally refilmed over the summer for these schools and brought it down to like 3 a term, just to make it simpler. And even then, we've gone even in more detail with the lessons and the explanation of what we're doing for that exact reason. Because I was communicating, 1, far too much, and 2, wasn't going in enough detail about each thing, because we were talking to people and teachers that haven't gardened before.
Yeah. So, we also need to talk about your book, because I want to know how you ended up doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to listen to this podcast and you thought there'd be a really nice story along, like, this happened and this happened, it's not. It's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But I did do a book. Yeah, good. I'm glad you do.
I'll remind you about that.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, remind me about what I've done.
When was it? When did the book come out?
I did the book it came out in 2020.
Okay.
Which, as we know, was not a great year, was it? But
I've got one, actually. I'm going to grab mine. Hold on.
Yeah, go get it. Yeah, it's a brilliant book. Where are you? Here you go. Look, here he comes. I'll sign it later for you. If you want.
Yes, now we're talking.
Worth so much more. Yeah, so I did this book. So basically...
Is that you?
All right. It was only 3 years ago.
Gonna have to do a close-up of them. Sorry.
Right,
Distracting.
so stop it. So basically, in 2019 I wanted to do a book, and all of the ideas that I'd done with Olive from the time she was like 2 months old. I remember when we had like a little handful of wildflower seeds in her hand. She sprinkled them on the ground, and then we got loads of flowers pop up. And from that point, I wanted to do all of the ideas that really work in the garden with kids. I talked earlier on about those Pinterest ideas that I used to chuck out on Blue Peter. And when I had Olive, I realised what really actually works with kids, and the ideas that we put together and are actually manageable as well, and don't cost too much as well. You get them books which look amazing, have great ideas, and then the kids pick an idea and about 60 quid later you're like, yeah, this is brilliant. Wanted ideas that were really affordable and cheap to create with your children. And do you know what? A lot of the ideas, when I first started my career, I was asked to do loads of articles and magazine bits, and said, oh, can you come up with a gardening make? I was like, yeah, cool, of course I can. I'm the Blue Peter gardener, let's do it. I didn't have a lot of money either at the time, so I just basically looked in the recycling, found something, and then was like, I could probably turn it into that milk carton into a bug hotel or something. Turned it into a bug hotel, and then basically all them ideas that I did with Olive, we put into a book, and it was the best. We did 2-day shoot with Jonathan Ward, who's an incredible photographer, and Olive was brilliant for the first day, and the second day she turned into a right diva.
Oh no.
And had to have like an umbrella around wherever she went, like water. She loved it. And then we brought this book out in 2020, and it was a rough year to try and launch something. None of us knew what was going on, did we? Right?
But probably a good year when everyone was stuck at home in their garden.
It was good for everyone else. I was having a mental breakdown at the time, mate. But feedback that I got after that, after we all started to see each other, was quite nice. Like, people said, oh, that book sort of got us through that whole period, and that's nice. Like, I'm really proud of it. Like, I can't believe I actually wrote a book. I think my English teacher would be really proud of me. But yeah, it's good.
I can hear that.
Oh yeah, I can hear that. Yeah, get that wildlife out of here. We don't want none of that. But yeah, so yeah, I was really proud to be able to put the ideas in there. The best thing that's ever happened to me with that book is money. No, I'm only joking. If you want to make money, don't become an author. But the best thing that ever happened with that book was, it was a few years ago now, and about to read Olive a bedtime story, and I said, what would you like to read? And she said, oh, can we look through my book? And we spent an hour looking through the book together
and seeing what you'd made.
It was the best. You can never get back that experience. Like, honestly, it was amazing. I had her on stage the other day, and I always ask her this question. It does change the answer every time I ask her, but I always say, what's your favourite make from the book, Olive? And at the moment, her favourite make is something called a cardboard castle. So, like many parents, you get caught, like I did, get caught in a trap, right? So, this is the situation what happened, right, Tom? Let me get it out there. My wife said to me, let's buy Olive a playhouse. I wasn't feeling this playhouse. It was 250 quid for starters. That's one of the reasons I didn't feel it. And I said, nah, I don't think she needs it. She don't need it.
I feel I know where this story's going.
And we got it. We did get the £250 playhouse. And as I was building it, my old neighbour, shouted over the fence. He was like, that's going to turn into like a little shed, didn't you? And I was like, nah, she's going to have like...
She's going to play in it every day.
Every day. The adventures she's going to have in this playhouse, memories forever, right? Literally a month later, it was just packed full of toys. You couldn't even fit in it. It was just packed full of toys. And it did turn into a little shed. So to stop people falling into the same trap, I come up with an idea called the cardboard castle. And so basically all it is a wooden frame out of some batten wood, about £20 worth of batten wood. Turn it into like a cube. And then you get do you want an ice cream in
There's the ice cream.
Well, you get like loads. He's really coming
It's
down.
loud.
He really. That's
Well,
Joe.
you can't miss the ice cream.
That's
Man,
Joe.
can you?
Joe's whippy. Everyone is coming. A batten wood around into a cube, and then when you order stuff, you get massive boxes. Just staple them around it, paint it up, cut a hole in the front.
Clever.
Cardboard castle. Now in the bad weather, obviously it doesn't survive. I like to put a positive spin. Then you can recreate another thing out of it.
New creation.
But I like to think she always says that one actually. Often Olive says that's the best idea, which is funny considering she never mentions that playhouse that I spent 250 quid on.
That wasn't her favourite.
No, but she does remember creating the cardboard castle. So
I've just had a flick through. There are so many cool. Oh, there's the castle.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many ideas and things that you could do. I mean, we're a bit late now, but this would have been great for the summer holidays.
It would be a great Christmas present, mate.
It would make get that sell in there. It would be a great Christmas present. But like, imagine in the summer holidays though, like when you're like, what on earth are we gonna do? I want to get the kids outside, but what we can like this is the
thing. In the
to
holidays,
be fair, I want to go make some of this stuff.
Well,
Some
you can
great
now. You
ideas
can.
in here. Yeah, now I've got my book.
But that's the thing, right? In the holidays, it is tough, isn't it? Like we've just not long come out of the holidays, and it's just expensive, isn't it? It's just so expensive, and you've got this whatever space you've got, whether you've got a little fence panel by fence panel courtyard like this, or a long garden, or just like a community space, you can create something together. Even if you've got a balcony, there's loads of ideas. Like literally, like I mentioned earlier, that little washing up bowl allotment is a great way to start gardening. Great way to start kids off. You don't have to dig into the ground, dig into the grass, create a massive allotment. In fact, definitely don't do that to start off with.
No.
Someone asked me the other day, like, "Oh, what's your biggest tip?" And I said, "Start small."
Yeah, well, some of that stuff's just getting something out of the recycling and
exactly
buying some birdseed.
Yeah, I've got a really good idea for a talk next year where I want to literally take a big bag of recycling up on stage, and then off the cuff just come up with ideas.
Yeah,
I think I'm that good, Tom.
I think you're that good.
You liar.
Yeah. I do kind of want to come and see it though. But that is just how easy it can be, though, isn't it? It's just go in the recycling, find some stuff. I mean, you've got these bug hotels. I've just seen even more of the little tin can bug hotels. Are they minions?
Yeah, these are really
just
nice.
Realised
I
thought they were bees, but they're minions.
I can't take claim for these. I really love these. They're like a baked bean tin can, just packed full of twigs and leaves. Now, I could take the full praise for them, but actually these are from a school which did a garden. They didn't collect them, so I kept them because I thought they were really cool.
They are really cool.
But it's so simple. Like, also, there's something you can make. I love garden and makes, which it's a bit of a rainy day outside. You can create that inside, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And then go outside and then go and collect twigs and stuff when it's a bit drier. So yeah, I can't take claim for them, but they are good, aren't they? It's, it gets kids outside exploring and getting a feel for stuff as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I love that. That's what it's about, isn't it?
So what's next then for you? What apart from the 10-year plan, obviously?
Yeah, that's quite a lot, isn't it?
What's next on the agenda?
Well, I've literally just come off tour. It is a tour. It was only 3 days, but it was a theatre tour.
Star.
I know, right? Just cut the bit where I said it was 3 days. Yeah, I literally just come off tour, right? And I'll do an extreme garden. This is like something that I'm really excited about. Like, I've got this sort of serious side of where I'm going into Parliament and getting curriculum, but I've got this wild side which I really.
It is a bit of a wild journey when I was, following your journey on Instagram, one day you're there in like a suit in Parliament, like very serious. The next day you're in like a glittery spaceman outfit with smoke.
You don't know what to make of it. You're like, what's this guy?
I'm like, oh God, 1 minute you can't keep up.
Yeah, I know, right? So last year I used to do this show called The Biggest Garden and Entertainment Show, and it was in a gold jacket, sparkly jacket, and it was really fun. I said, that's it, I'm going to hang it up. And I did a big thing where I hung up the gold jacket. That was it. My entertainment days are done. Now I'm going to be curriculum, Parliament, let's get serious. And that piece of me is there, the serious side. But that entertaining side just won't go away. And so in January, it's actually come from Olive actually a little bit again, because she's 8 now, and 8-year-olds are a little bit harder to get into gardening. To the point where I said to her, it was around February, March, I said, would you, do you want to come outside, we'll plant some potatoes? And she's like, nah, you're all right, I'll just sit and watch YouTube, thanks.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And we watch a YouTuber called Mr. Beast. Have you heard of Mr. Beast?
No.
Oh my, get on it, Tom, right? He's the biggest YouTuber almost in the world.
Okay.
Like, he gets 69 million views in a day. So I can't believe you never heard of him. He's going to change your world.
When I used to have kids, it was just Peppa Pig.
Yeah, that world's done, mate. Peppa Pig's over. Mr. Beast, right, he, without talking about him too much, he's an amazing YouTuber, right? He does really extreme stuff. Like, recently we watched a video where he crushed a Lamborghini with, like a, I don't know, like, I can't remember what it was. He shredded a Lamborghini, basically.
Oh,
I'm not doing that sort of stuff. But inspired by that, and by Olive not wanting to come outside, I was like, what if we shot a seed potato out of a cannon? And I mentioned this to her, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, straight away, we were outside. And we spent hours outside with a pot and a seed potato, and it was flying through the air, trying to get in. It was so much fun. And this whole thing of extreme gardening came around.
Do you record this stuff?
Yeah, so it's on a YouTube channel, a very quiet YouTube channel, but it's there.
Is it? Right, everyone get on the YouTube channel.
I'll show you after this. Anyway, this extreme gardening thing came about. So from that potato cannon thing, and it was really amazing. And then we started to do sending tomatoes to space and potatoes on Mars. And I found this way of educating children of all ages, basically, to get gardening, because they hear, potato can, like, wow, I want to see this. And so very slowly, this is what I was trying to tell someone the other day about YouTube, is I started to do these YouTube videos, and my channel's very quiet. Like, I've got to say, it's a very quiet channel, as in no one hardly watches.
Like mine.
But you're doing brilliantly compared to mine, mate. I promise you. 10 years I've been on it. Like this. Anyway, away from that. So off the back of it, these videos, I was like, right, I'm going to do extreme gardening on stage and make something of this, right? And then we started to do like sowing sunflowers while skydiving. Now, I haven't filmed that one yet, but it's an amazing idea in my head. And so off the back of all these videos that we filmed, we made a stage show. And this year it's been to Hampton Court. We went to Southport with it as well, Southport Flower Show, which was amazing. Wisley, I think we've been to Wisley with it. And then I got the chance to do a theatre tour off the back of it.
Wow. And
so that's what I've literally come back from. And so the answer to your question you asked me about 3 hours ago was what is next, is in 2024 we're going to bring that show to more garden shows, and also some places which you might not expect them as well, because I want to try and communicate gardening to people that are not already signed up to it, right? And that's my biggest thing. So curriculum is really important, and that is a big majority of what I'm doing. But extreme gardening is something that I've fallen into, getting children gardening and entertaining them at the same time, and educating them through that. And the theatre show was just amazing. Like, I was really nervous about it. Like, afterwards I was like, I don't know why I was, because I don't like bigging myself up too much. I do sometimes. But it doesn't come naturally to me, right?
That's the listeners of the podcast.
Yeah. He says it all the time. But honestly, it went so well. I was so proud of it, and the team that helped me put it together, and the audiences reacted so well to some of the stuff that we were doing. There's fire involved in it. We have I was speaking to Aid Sellers the other day, and who is the Good Life gardener. And he was saying, I'm just getting ready for my talks, and he's putting his talk together. He goes, "Are you doing yours?" I said, "Yeah, I've just had to buy a fire extinguisher." That's the first thing I had to buy for my talk. Because there's all these, and there's smoke machines, and there's all sorts, and it's brilliant. And I really want to take that to more places and do more theatre stuff next year. And then, I don't know, I'd really like to make a programme from it. Like I talked about making children's TV again.
Yeah.
I'd love to do, I think it's got legs, right? It's got something in it.
Absolutely.
And so I'll be working on that next year as well, to try and make it into an actual programme to entertain kids.
Amazing.
That's the answer. And changing the world with school gardening.
Of course.
Serious side.
Perfect. Well, I feel like we've naturally got to a
we
nice
just put the
point
world
there.
I feel like we just put the world to rights, to be honest with you.
We have basically.
Yeah,
we've sorted everything out now. Job done. If everyone could just listen to this,
yeah, that'd be really helpful.
be sorted.
I think that my biggest message is my final message that I want to put out there to the world is go and create them memories with your kids, because you're never going to get a time back. I feel the saddest thing happened to me the other day. I know you're trying to wrap up, but I want to send a little story. It's literally, Olive went back to school, and she's 8 now, and we walked down the road, and usually I hold her hand. I went to try and hold her hand. She didn't want to. Didn't want to hold my hand, and I was like, oh man, like all those times I used to just walk to school with her and hold her hand, and I just used to take it for granted. And now can't get those days back. Same with being out the garden, like all those times when she used to just run up and down the garden and mess around in the mud. Like, that's changed so much. That's where extreme gardens come from. That's like, so just make the most of now, I think, and create some memories.